Greetings! In today's video, I've been asked a couple of questions and I would like to answer them. Let's get started. So, the two questions I'm answering are going to be about the functioning of the automated turrets on the Insight carrier and the inner workings of basically my most recent hoverpad creations. The hoverpad one is going to be simpler to answer, therefore I shall do that beforehand. I have a few creations given to me by a couple of friends. I specifically asked them to give me boats because boats are not supposed to fly, and therefore it will be the most effective to make them fly in particular for the purposes of this demonstration. So this is a very large boat that Yeetify made. He has a YouTube channel. You guys might want to go and check that out. And these are two boats that Azimuth made. She also has a YouTube channel. Her latest video is getting quite a bit of traction, and it's about infinite money in Trailmakers. So if you are interested, you should go check that out. Regardless, so this is how you make basically anything fly in Trailmakers if you want to. There are hover pads facing in all of the different directions, and the control scheme is quite simple. If you look at your keyboard and the buttons are Q, W, E, A, S, D, and space for all of the different colors, this is basically the configuration, and the hover pads are colored accordingly. This will go forward if need be. It will hold its position or orientation in basically any direction without falling out of the sky, without any issues, basically. And it will roll and yaw and pitch whenever you need it to. In essence. In depth, or in particular, you have the W key, which goes into the hover pad all the way at the front, horizontal, and the hover pad all the way in the back, also horizontal. The S key does the same for the two opposing hover pads in the front and in the back. The D and A keys do much the same for the opposing horizontal hover pads on the sides. So on this side and on this side. The E and Q keys will control the vertical hover pads in the front and in the back. And space will be put into all of the hover pads and engines related to forward movement. Of course, if you want to move backwards, then you can, for example, put it on shift, and you're going to have to still use all of the vertical forward and backward hover pads. And in addition to that, engines facing the other way. It's a lot of controls, but not very complicated at all. All you have to do is use all of the buttons into all of the hover pads in a configuration similar to this. And if your creation is heavier, just add more hover pads. They are very strong regardless, so you won't. It's pretty easy to make anything fly in this configuration. And to demonstrate that effectively, I have taken, well, this boat and made it fly, as you've just seen. I have this boat, which also flies at this point, because I've grafted horrifying things onto it. Which also flies pretty well. And as you can see, if the creation is smaller, it's actually going to be more effective, and you're going to need less power to keep it in the air. And then, of course, the largest, which is Yidify's model, but still performs as need be. And all with the same control scheme and without too much effort. It just, it's very heavy, but it still stays in the air as much as I want it to. And in basically any given orientation. So, yeah. The next part of the video will focus on the automated turret, 3 of which sit on my Insight carrier. Its programming isn't complicated either. However, it's worth going over. So, basically, all of this is done with timings. It's gonna rotate on the horizontal axis and tilt on the vertical in order to basically spray and pray in random directions until it's hit something. Of course, if you add more turrets, then you're going to have a more effective defense mechanism, because they're going to be able to keep a more consistent fire rate and not have too many issues with dead space, basically. There's going to be less time where nothing is firing. Although it's still pretty much a gamble whether you hit anything or not. It's very useful for when you don't have a lot of people cooperating with you, and you don't, like, you need the AI to take over some of the roles that people could be partaking in. So you have a constant output distance sensor, and it basically triggers everything except for these 2 blocks, but I will explain this part later. So these 3, the orange and the yellow one, are very simple. They simply have like delay, duration, and pause, and they're active into, like, they activate servos and hinges at intervals, basically. For the servo, it just keeps rotating in the same direction, and for the hinges, they go up and down, so the first output is positive and the second one is negative. And as long as you play with the timings enough, you will get patterns that can fill the sky with bullets, basically. And that's about it for the movement. For the firing instead, you have the distance sensor that goes into the XOR gate. The XOR gate has, again, timing in delay, duration, and pause. I found that in this configuration specifically, the miniguns will not run out of bullets, basically ever. They will keep shooting indefinitely or almost indefinitely. And you have this XOR gate that gives an input to an AND gate, and you have this XOR gate with space on toggle that gives input to the AND gate, and the AND gate gives input to the miniguns. This means that you can toggle the miniguns on and off whenever you'd like. And that looks like this, basically. I've just tapped space and toggled on the firing loop, basically. And it's gonna just do all of this on its own without me having to touch any more buttons, which means that my keyboard can be operating other systems and worrying about other things. It's extremely handy and quite simple to set up. It's just a lot of gates and a lot of timings. It gets a little bit boring if you want to optimize it. You just have to play with the numbers until you're happy with the result. And there you go. That's a short, hopefully brief, hopefully comprehensible breakdown of two of the systems that I've been using recently quite a bit. Hopefully they are fulfilling answers to the questions that I've been asked. I hope you've enjoyed, and I will see you in the future.